Through more than 4 years of desperate and sometimes terrible clashes, more than 9,000 Africans lost their lives. Fewer than 50 Europeans were killed, and yet the colonial government and the white settlers could see in the rebels nothing more than savage murderers bent on the mindless killing of white people and lost to all reason in the depths of superstition. They called the rebels Mau Mau, a term of contempt. But the rebels gave themselves a different name. Mostly they were simple people, few of whom could read or write, and yet they had a clear and exact idea of what they were fighting and dying for. They called themselves the Land and Freedom Army.
Kira gatumire tuthie mutito nie ndirute guthie kuruira Mau Mau ni undu wa githaka na wiathi kuma hindi yo marakara nimo matumire ndonye mutito wa Aberdare kuringana na uguo ni twaruire tondu ndatonyire mutito 1953 na ndacokire kumira 1955
ndaiguire ndina uru nundu wa mugunda wa baba gutunyanwo gwitunyano kwa njira ya mahitia na gutiri mugunda ungi ona umwe twatigeirio uguo ngiona kihoto ni guthii thiini wa mutitu ngarowe nigetha mugunda ucio wa baba ugacoka kana ngie na mugunda ungi.
Land was the crux of the conflict. The land the Africans had lost, the land the settlers were determined to keep. The spiral of violence went beyond the control of either side.
From the Cathedral of the Highlands in Nairobi are borne the bodies of Mr. and Mrs. Roger Ruck and their 6-year-old son, Michael, a British family brutally murdered by the Mau Mau. Here in a lonely farmhouse, far from the comparative safety of the city, police dogs found the Rucks stabbed to death. But the Mau Mau strike not only at Europeans, their own people are often among their victims. Thick woods and jungle have to be penetrated to find the murderers, so Samburu tribesmen who know the country well join in the manhunt.
Many thousands of Africans were arrested and found themselves facing stiff sentences for their involvement in the uprising. Many thousands of others were detained in prison camps without any trial at all. Captive rebels remember the camps as places of painful suffering.
Na twarutaga wira wina hinya muno tondu eka imwe twacimbaga na thuru andu 50 o muthenya na ni twahuragwo muno tondu na kiugo ni kwaigitwo thigari cia gutuhuraga ni athungu na ni menjete irima mwathiururuka andu matakuite andu teri mutingitiga kuhurwo.
But the strength of the British Army and its counterinsurgency tactics proved far too powerful for the makeshift troops of the Mau Mau. In October 1956, the rebel commander, Dedan Kimati, was at last captured and hanged, and the 4-year-old rebellion was crushed. But although militarily defeated, the forest fighters soon knew that the political battle was won.
Gutiri gitumi kingi atumire tukorwo twina migunda kana tukorwo twina wiathi ninge ciana citu tingire ciona githomo.
The rebellion was followed by an attempt to heal the wounds, yet nothing could be the same as before. No matter what efforts at civilian reconstruction might be made, the British now understood that there could no longer be any future for colonial rule in Kenya. Jomo Kenyatta, the man whom a British governor had called the leader to darkness and death, was released from prison to become the honored president of an independent nation. Among the many influential new leaders of other former British colonies was the humane and far-seeing Julius Nyerere. Happily for him, Tanzania and neighboring countries, Uganda, Malawi, Zambia, freedom came without an armed struggle, as it did for the most powerful African country of them all, the Great Federation of Nigeria. And Britain departed from tropical Africa to the general satisfaction of all concerned, and the new leaders, like those of Nigeria, accepted happily, at least to begin with, the British pattern of parliamentary rule. All that mattered at this stage was freedom. In the vast African empire of France, there were few white settlers to displace, and many black nationalists could travel a relatively peaceful road towards independence. But in Algeria, with a large French population, a major war lasted through the 1950s. It was a tragedy which reproduced every horror of the Kenya rebellion, but on a huge scale. A well-organized guerrilla army with mass support fought to end a racist and oppressive French administration dominated, as in Kenya, by white settlers. As many as 700,000 French troops were poured in with all the available military hardware at their disposal. It was to prove the most savage war of independence Africa had seen. Even an electrified fence with 900,000 landmines was strung round Algeria's borders in a bid to cut off the rebels from outside help. Sheer military power very nearly defeated the liberation fighters, but their popular support, despite ruthless reprisals, never collapsed. About 1 million Algerians died, including many of their outstanding young leaders. The French Republic was torn apart, and France itself was threatened with civil war. Into this catastrophe stepped France's wartime hero, Charles de Gaulle. While moving secretly to concede independence to Algeria, he set about bolstering French colonial positions south of the Sahara. Touring these colonies with all his pride and panache, de Gaulle offered political rights within a French community, within, that is, the enclosing power of France. The future president of Senegal, Léopold Senghor, recalls those days.
Charles de Gaulle était un nationaliste. Il mettait la France, n'est-ce pas, au-dessus de tout. Mais c'était un homme qui avait le sens de l'histoire. Le général de Gaulle nous a compris, mais la plupart des partis en France ont pratiqué la politique du diviser pour régner quand il s'est agi de nous accorder l'autonomie d'abord et l'indépendance ensuite.
In Senegal, as in all the French colonies except Guinea, which struck out on its own, de Gaulle's offer was accepted. Nationalist leaders stepped smartly into the palaces of the departing French governors, and political independence duly followed. Each of the new states of the former French Empire adopted the French model of parliamentary government with a national assembly and set out to make its independent mark on the world. But most of them were small or with little population and resources, heavily dependent on France, and France was able to retain a tight financial and even military control, a control that was going to endure for many years into the future.
The wind of change blowing through the Belgian Congo, and down comes the Belgian flag in Leopoldville, a few days, in fact, in advance of independence. Elected as Prime Minister of the new Congo Republic, Mr. Patrice Lumumba receives congratulations from members of both houses of Parliament.
The applause was ready, but little else. Belgium had allowed this huge colony just 6 months to prepare for its independence. Britain gave Nigeria the best part of 10 years. President Kasavubu might have the right clothes for the job, but that, unhappily, was about all. The much more able Prime Minister Lumumba had to rely on men of no experience.
I found myself at the age of 27, minister in the cabinet in Kinshasa and ambassador to the United Nations. Among the 36 cabinet ministers and secretary of state were just 3 of us holding university degrees.
With few Belgian officials left to help, chaos erupted. The Congolese army mutinied and rampaged. Whole provinces rebelled. Situated between a newly independent Africa to the north and the white-ruled colonial south, the Congo, with its rich mineral wealth, became the victim of outside interference.
They saw their